I'd like to introduce Chase Brower. He's founder of a startup company here in Peoria by the name of SWYCH Box. He'll be giving us an update on that venture. Chase and his wife moved to Peoria in 2019. They are also the proud owners of Pancheros Mexican Grill, my daughter's favorite Mexican grill. Two Scooters Coffees and the Dog House in central Peoria. Alongside business growth, they are raising 4 boys. 2 were born in Iowa, 2 in Peoria. Chase is going to discuss the startup and then what it's like to be a serial entrepreneur in the ecosystem of Peoria. So with that, I will pass it to Chase.
Can I walk and talk with this a little bit?
No, we'll give you another one.
All right, no problem. All right, we'll get into this. Thank you guys so much for having me. I was here a couple months ago, actually late last year with John Stevens here. And are we on? Yeah, there we go. Here with John Stevens from Stevens Auto Glass. And he did another presentation like this too, which I think is kind of just pays homage to Peoria and what all of its offerings are. And that's a lot of what I want to talk about today with Peoria as well too, with our story, why we're here, and then how SWYCH Box got started, and then where we're really going down the road with it too. Because being a serial entrepreneur, I didn't know what it really was back in the day. It was a bad word. It was kind of someone that didn't have a job. That's the way it was explained to me in high school. So I did not go down that route. And so I'll start way back then too, before we get to SWYCH Box here. Again, this is going to be a very Peoria-driven story in this one too, because I think a lot of you Peorians that have lived here a long time are spoiled, and you forget what you got here a little bit. Okay, so stay with me here. So we're from Iowa City, Iowa. We lived there for about 10 years. Yep, after going to Iowa State. It was so we enjoyed it. We got married. We started a family there and all that, and it was great. But at that time, Iowa City was really growing, and it had kind of one major catalyst. And I'll get to this too. But where we found ourselves at that time, we just had our first child, and my entrepreneurial spirit was really kicking in. So in 2016, I started my first business by opening my mouth to some manufacturer that just said, I need to get my stuff on Amazon on page 1 because they're outputting these weird parts, but we needed to reach a bigger customer base. And I was like, Doug, no problem. That's like the easiest ask in the world. And I had no idea what I was doing when I said that. And he's like, you can do it? I'm like, dude, give me a week or a month or so. And so he's like, so I get an email the next day like, hey, I want you to do this. Here's Steve's email, yada, yada. And so that took me down that road, and I had to go through YouTube University on SEO back in the day in 2016. And so I did it, we got it on, and then it became a great thing, kind of like that mailbox money, right? Every once in a while, it was just once a month commission checks, and then if they had a different part to add or subtract to it. And that was great. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm still working full time and all that. And then it kind of evolved into, what else do I love doing? Right, I like doing this. This is easy. I've got more time. What else do I love doing? And it branched into kind of like home automation. I love technology. I love making my life easy. I love not having to think and things just working. And so I did that for a while, and I was installing I was just selling and installing some very expensive home lighting automation, like $20,000 lighting systems, and just for fun. And when you do that stuff, then you get to implement it into your own home, and you get the perks of a business, right? To test and try out and all that. But I was sitting there one day and I was like, I'm charging a premium for replacing a light switch here. But I was like, how do I do this at scale, right? And so my schooling was industrial engineering. I ended up graduating with business, but industrial engineering taught me everything I needed to for problem solving and understanding that. But through my internships, I'm going backwards a little bit. Through my internships, I was just like, I'm making $1 million decisions, but I'm not seeing one extra dollar out of my paycheck when I'm saving this company millions of dollars, right? Or outputting more parts, producing more money. And that's where like it always sat with me in school and all this too, where I was just like, and honestly too, once industrial engineering got to thermodynamics, I was like, I need to change education here, because chemistry is not my strong suit. But that's where kind of like this catalyst of like this entrepreneurial spirit was just in me, but I just was repressing a little bit and not really understand where it goes. But with the onset of internet, YouTube, and all this, it's made things a lot easier to get everyone's ideas out. You can just ideate a lot faster and all that too, especially with the onset of AI lately as well too. So back then when I was screwing in that light switch, I was like, how do I do this more at scale? I could I could hire some people to do this, and I just work on like the programming and all this, but I'm like, how many homes actually want this? It might be too hard. And sorry, pardon. And so I just started thinking, and if you guys don't talk about what you want to do, it's not going to be out there. And I had kind of, entrepreneurs are like a weird person for a lot of people. And so when you start telling people you started a business, I had some friends that made fun of me. I had a buddy that made fun of me, but then his mother was like, Chase, I think that's great you started a business, like you should talk about it. So the more I talk about it, the more action you just subconsciously take, and it gives you that little bit of encouragement that you kind of need to kind of like keep pushing forward. And so I was like, oh, thanks, Becky, like that's actually what I needed to hear. And so I kept thinking, and then, God delivers me a YouTube video on real estate, and so I got into real estate back in Iowa, and what real estate taught me, or kind of watching like 6 to 8 months of these videos, of understanding like what market you're going to invest in to buy and hold real estate, I found a great market in Iowa. It satisfied everything, and this kind of builds my reasoning to move to Peoria later down the road here. But what it had was a lot of diverse work environments, or like manufacturing up to administrative to technology. A lot of people bad with money because, smaller rental houses that I could afford needed, lower, not lower income, but like the working workforce housing income. But we bought, we renovated, and then we fixed up, and then we raised the rents on it and stuff too. So that worked really well, but it just kind of like ran out around 2018. I couldn't get any more deal flow going. And so when I get bored or something stops working, I kind of am open to pivoting. This is where entrepreneurship kind of comes out. Robert Kiyosaki says buy 3 things: real estate, businesses, and land with kind of like resources underneath it. I don't know anything about that. But I was like, oh, let's buy a business, right? And so the first thing, I'm sitting at a Pancheros that I was eating at 3 times a week anyway. And during this transition, I was sitting in an office, like during this whole period, for a couple of years, I was sitting in an office and I saw people like going in to just wait to retire. And then one major catalyst too was like Larry Guy. He was really looking forward to it, always super happy, very energetic at work and all that too. One of the few that really enjoyed his job, and it was just brought in energy. Well, he retired, and then a year after he retired, he had a heart attack. And he was in good shape and all that when he retired as well too, but he looked forward his whole life, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't just wait for this time clock, and because I was like, there's no reason for that too. So that's always sat with me pretty hard. But so like kind of moving forward, I'm like, how do I retire immediately, right? Well, I'm finding out retirement's definitely different for everybody, because I tried sitting still and doing nothing, and that just leads to more stuff. And jobs are great, but it's like, where's the ceiling, right? And I need an infinite ceiling, so to speak. And that's where like SWYCH Box really kind of comes in at. So I went to sales as well too, because it was the one thing I was lacking in my entrepreneurial toolbox was sales. And so I went to sales. I developed a system for my industrial engineering background, management information systems, and then business. Fixed up, created a system for our internal sales, did that, and then promoted to outside sales because we hired a couple people for that, did outside sales, and I loved it. It was super hard. Sales is like the hardest thing, but it's the best thing, because once you get good, you're good, and it gives you the confidence to just kick down doors, get to your next no until you get to a yes, and it's fantastic. But it was actually the tool I needed most to like launch me. So as I'm driving around all the time, I get new accounts. I'm meeting up on Pancheros over in Iowa where it's really big and all this stuff too. And I was just sitting in there. Again, deal flow on the residential side is a little slow. And I'm like, well, I should buy this business. Like, I'm eating here three times a week anyway. It fills me up. It's a good price. It's 5 things on the menu, no problem. Looks simple. Didn't even know what a franchise was at the time. So I just go into the home office. I'm like, I want to own one of these. And I look young anyway. And they're like, call this guy. So we go through the whole thing, and they ultimately say, hey, look, you're good, but any other ones in Iowa are going to be corporate owned, so pick a different city and state. And I was like, huh. And my wife's like 6 months pregnant when we hear this with our second boy. And when we got pregnant the first time too, that was a major, like, how do I make sure I'm going to make every soccer game, football game, and all this stuff too. So it's a lot of this just freedom and all this. Because I just didn't want to miss those things. That's what's important. And we had to like work Dana, my wife, out. So like daycare didn't watch every step, every first step and all that too. You know, just very, very family oriented. But so like, okay, so we go on this extensive search for the Midwest. I was like, I'm not moving out of the Midwest because I love it. It's the best place for families. And we look at like Lansing, Michigan. We're looking up in Wisconsin, like towns north of Madison, and like kind of some of like these more appealing, like from the cuff cities and all this. And we're looking at it. Peoria was on here too, but it was lower on the list. And when I actually started looking through some of like the real estate, first of all, is how I started like discovering these cities and states and all this. Then I started looking at surrounding areas of those and like where we would expand into and what is the ultimate goal, because like a single Ponchero store or two isn't everything. And so it never was the end goal. It was just another kind of performing asset. Well, I thought it'd be passive too, guys. These are not passive. It's the main reason I'm exiting out of a lot of these as well too. Scooters, we still got 2 more to build, but that's a super easy system. We can go into that further as well. But it did teach me to earn my wings and all this too, and to give me the confidence to manage a team, create culture and all this. Through this, so I got really good at developing the system and stuff, but, well, okay, let's go back to Peoria here for their selection. So I toured Peoria after we toured these other cities and states too, and I'm loving it. I'm like, actually, Peoria's like a degree further south on the latitude lines. I'm like, it's like 5 degrees warmer here all the time. This is fantastic compared to Iowa City. And that's a big difference, you know, you guys know it. But we toured it once, and then we're like, great. Toured Bloomington, great. And then I was like, okay, look at all these, you know, high level numbers. Bloomington outshines Peoria, just shiny object syndrome, okay? But when you really start dialing in, and I'm bringing in kind of, again, this real estate market that I'm looking for, when you really dial in Peoria, we have a hugely diverse work environment, like manufacturing. We got Maui Gym here, we got Komatsu, Caterpillar Manufacturing, OSF, Carl Held, Unity Point at the time too. And honestly, when I found out that Unity Point and OSF had more employees than Caterpillar, that's where I was like, wait a second. We've got not just, because from the outsider's point of view, from everybody outside of Peoria, this is a yellow and gold city. This is Caterpillar City, but actually it's far more than that. And I think we're coming to that precipice of like identity crisis here, where like we can reform ourselves and be something greater than just a single, you know, business or so. But when I saw that, I was like, all right, diverse work environment, right? And I knew from Iowa City, that city basically built itself off of just the hospital itself. Like, the university's great, everyone loves the tailgate once a weekend, all that for the football games and all this, but it started blowing up because the doctors and all this started like coming in, and then when the doctors, the high-income earners come in, then all these other other restaurants and retail and all that stuff can start coming in. And so that's where my thesis was on Peoria here. But we were definitely going to move to Bloomington. We like had 3 houses picked out, and then I went to go cruise Bloomington on our own with my wife, and I drove around Bloomington. I'm like, I hate this city. It's one ways, you get lost, and it's like no style. It's just like franchise galore, and yeah, you got the university downtown, but it's definitely like university town. I'm like, we're moving out of Iowa City. We're not going to move back into another Iowa City, and it doesn't have the river that's running through there. And at the time, Rivian wasn't in, which is still amazing for Peoria that Rivian moved in over there too. But I just saw, it was just like State Farm. They're kind of like one-trick pony over there a little bit as well. And so when I looked at acreage as well too, Peoria has tons of room to grow. And I gave a kind of like speech to the real estate investment group too. Like when you look at the Peoria map, and it's exactly what, like my thesis is like we're like 10 years behind the Iowa City kind of model itself. Because you have this quick expansion of cities where they jump to these smaller cities to just get out of the city and get some lower taxes or get into some new areas, newer houses, because we are an old city and that's a really good thing. But it's time for like a lot of the houses, like our neighborhood, they're turning over in those houses and we're creating a lot of value internally as well. But then when you have this, then you kind of have an implosion, so to speak, of like everyone mass exodus outside of the city, but then how do we bring it in? And so for the real estate group, we have a lot of green space in between Washington, Dunlap, Pekin, Morton, Germantown, and all this too. And so I'm like, these are the areas like we will grow and expand into very easily infrastructurally. So we have a ton of room for growth in Peoria, which is what I was looking for, because I wasn't betting on Peoria in 2019 in November on what it was. I was betting on what it's going to be. And the other cities were clear, like this is what the cities were doing, but it's like, where were they going to grow? And it proved a much harder model because you can see this momentum, but momentum can change at any point. But Peoria's momentum was none. You guys had none in 2019 from my quick analysis. But when you start looking at all these different factors, much like Peoria, with the Rotary Club, service above self, I'm like, be the change you want to be in the community. And so I was like, wait a second. These things are here. We leveled out. You guys had 2 recessions, 2009 housing crisis that the nation felt, and then the 2015 Caterpillar moving out. I consider that your guys' recession as well too. So you had these 2 huge dips. Basically, Peoria was like a rock bottom stock. And just like in real estate, when the housing market, so the property is rock bottom, or the prices are, it's like now it's time to invest in, right? Because you guys were going nowhere further south. The only way up for Peoria was up in 2019, and that's, from my point of view, that's literally where Peoria's been going. We've had some huge changes from some big players and other people that have stepped up after the Caterpillar. OSF's been a great one, but then even like Distillery Labs, we have so much that other people are actually starting to see. And then with the Rivian plant over there too, it's just brought so many more engineers and other people from other states and all this too out of college to work in a new company as well. So it's been really great. Bloomington can't handle all the housing. Peoria's getting the benefit of that as well too. So, and we're like equidistant. This was kind of like nice too. We're kind of equidistant between Indianapolis, St. Louis, and Chicago too, which not a lot of people really pay attention to when they're coming to Peoria. But when you stay here, you're pretty close to 3 major cities that are nice. So those are a lot of the factors, a little bit more, but ultimately too, one small thing they kept whispering to me is like when I was researching Peoria, I kept seeing Distillery Labs or what was it? I think it was Distillery Labs beforehand. Jake Hammond was running it, and I just kept seeing this entrepreneurial ecosystem keep popping up. And so I was like, well, at the end of the day, right, I might have a venue, and I didn't see this in other cities. Like, you guys need to know when entrepreneurs like need to reach out or kind of find some resources to get an idea off the ground and stuff too. And we don't offer that freely or advertise it at all too. Like, it's hard for new ideas and new things to really start if you're not in Silicon Valley or just like working out of your computer in a garage like Steve Jobs and all that stuff. But that kind of stuck out a little bit and kind of weighed into my decision making for Peoria. And I was like, at the end of the day, I've got something bigger that like whatever I come up with in a couple of years, I have a resource possibly to like really flex that muscle and expand on that. And so we fast forward, stores open, COVID sets in after we move here. We build during COVID, which is really hard because I had to keep prices down, and then open store in 2021. And that's where I find out, this restaurant's not passive at all. It's extremely active, lose my manager, and anything and everything you can think of could go wrong, did go wrong. But I made it, and it was great, and we got a great team, but it taught me everything I didn't know I needed. And so kind of moving forward from that, I was able to use those same demographics from Iowa and bring scooters in, right? Because we have a lot of these same similarities. These scooters, coffees, I can get into these smaller spaces with these underserved markets and all this stuff. So as I'm doing this, like I'm getting good at working myself out of the job, right? After a couple of years, hard grind, and then I meet my co-founder, Temi. Thank goodness, thank the Lord for our wife. They were at school, and like our kids were friends, and then the wives were like, you guys should get together, we should just have family dinner. I'm like, quit setting me up on dates, honey, I don't need friends. But I needed Temi. But him and I, after a couple drinks or so, after the second family dinner date, we were like, he's got this entrepreneurial fire in him as well too. But he's like, I've got time on Fridays, and I was like, dude, let's just get together and just any idea that comes out, like, let's just go to a library. And this is before Distillery Labs downtown is available or any kind of workspace like that. Let's just go to a library, get a whiteboard, and whatever comes out of our head spits out, right? And so we learned from each other real quick. Didn't even know each other very well, just knew kind of each other's differences. We're a very good yin and yang. And kind of we ideated really fast with some of these concepts, the way we look at problems, the way we look at solutions and all this too. So we're able to come up with just stuff and just say yes, no, maybe later, or too hard, right? And then one day he comes up with SWYCH Box. And so I'm like, great, it's your week, it's your idea, so what do we got? And he started out just because he's like, dude, we got back from Chicago on a long drive. There's these charging stations. He has a Tesla. He's like, I'm sitting at the Hy-Vee charging station. There's no amenities whatsoever. And the precipice behind all of SWYCH Box here is the gas station model created a $3 billion $30 billion market with the gas stations, like all this convenience store stuff, the sodas and all this stuff. And that's off of a 5-minute draw of getting gas. Does that make sense? Like, you're going to get gas 5 minutes, but they created $30 billion. And so it's like, what does, as we're going through this, we got 5 minutes at the fuel tank, you go in and get all this stuff. And then it's technically 27.5 minutes, we're going to round up for everyone's simple math, but what does 30 minutes of draw actually take, right? Let's take a reduced, minimized version of it. Why do none of these charging stations have any amenities whatsoever to like clean out your car, disposables, air up your tire, even offer some other amenities, vacuums? Like, we've got a long list, and then we started this idea just on a whiteboard here. But then it kind of evolved into something along the lines with Distillery Labs, where I saw this G-Beta program constantly advertised, right? And it was just like on LinkedIn or something as well too. And I was like, Temmie, I think we should, it says it's an accelerator. I don't know what this is. I think we should just sign up for it. If we don't make it, we don't make it, whatever. It doesn't cost us anything. So we spent a couple hours putting stuff together. But, and then we proposed our idea of SWYCH Box to G-Beta, and then we actually got it. And we were, I'm gonna say we were like, they said that they would take 5, they took 6 this time. I'm like, we were probably the 6th one because we're so far behind everybody else, but they liked our team and our dynamics and all that too, which is really fantastic because I've never been through an accelerator before or even learned how to do a pitch deck. Much like Shark Tank, right? They've got 2 minutes on Shark Tank. That's what this is, and this is what these big venture capitalists, and that's what the big thing was we were looking for, is people on the back end. When this idea starts to move, who's going to keep us like launching and stuff too. So I thought the accelerator would be fantastic. What we did, and the accelerator went way faster. It was a 6-week program, really bumped us up, got our idea bigger than because when you have an idea, you kind of have blinders on, and you need somebody else, you need other mentors, which Kurt was one of them during that time too, to offer different ideas on what you're doing, how to expand it, and what's wrong with it too. Like, nobody wants to you don't want to call your baby ugly, but you need all these other people to call your baby ugly, right? Like, you need that to keep pivoting and kind of like take that stuff. And so, so again, we get to this pitch, and we've been having a lot of fun and movement with it too. But, EV owners, 30 minutes at, what does 30 minutes actually create? No amenities available whatsoever at these EV charging stations as well. So this is a big problem with electric vehicles and the drivers itself, especially when you're going on long trips, or just conveniently as well too when you need a super fast charge, because at home you can only charge at a certain speed, but say you just got back and you need to go on another trip the next day, your house might not charge your car fast enough. So you have all these, so we have downtime. And the one thing I hate is downtime, okay? I enjoy my downtime when it's like specific, but when I'm just sitting in the car, it's like, no, we gotta figure something else out to do. So what we came up with was SWYCH Box, the service while you charge solution. A self-service kiosk that offers both digital services and physical equipment to utilize and make your time at these charging stations profitable to yourself. Whether you can sit and scroll on your phone, but at the same time, we needed something here that was mobile, that could be deployed anywhere, and all this. And we'll go through the issues with this too, because I'm sure there's a lot. But when you actually start adding up the 27.5 minutes, that's what this is. Fill up your windshield wiper fluid. Right? We've got that in there because it's like the only thing EVs need are windshield wiper fluid. Okay, that's it. That's it. But 7 minutes to fill up your tires, especially when you know what it is. 10 minutes to maybe vacuum it out, or 15 minutes to get food delivered to you as well. We can't bring a convenience store to you. There's been a ton of models. We went through that system too, where you have this overhead of this huge store and this Amazon kind of type thing. But it's like, no, let's just circumvent that, get rid of kill the overhead outside of the kiosk, right? So if you add all these up, we're at 30 minutes here, right? First one, we went with Lock and Go. So we partnered with a company that provides the box and the system is sold too. That's been going terrible, okay? But, so we got version 2 in. So this is our latest wrap on this one too. We've switched, we're going over to Open Grid technologies. We have a site here in Peoria for another charging station as well that they're waiting on funding for to put in one at Grand Prairie and all this. We have that contract signed. And so that's been some great progress with this whole thing, but it's not the end of the story. Very simple too. The way it works is like you park, you plug in, you see this goofy thing sitting out there, you scan the QR code, it takes you to a very simple, no login necessary kind of system. And scan there, select the service, see the price, pay it, and then pop it open. And truthfully, we're going off of very simple model, right? This is the first thing when we're ideating these ideas too, is like, how is this even profitable on the whiteboard before it even gets this far to where we got money into these two expensive machines, but $5 per rental, 2 rentals per hour, right? We're trying to be extremely conservative, and that's the way I've always done my numbers. And 8 hours per day, even though these things can run 24 hours, we're just being conservative. 8 months per year, $19,000 per box. Site deployment, this is where the capital would come in too. We need to pay for a box to be on site and maybe some infrastructure too, but when we get to the site deployment, no cost to owner, site deployment removal, 24/7 customer support. But the value props is what we really found out too that brings more to the business site host. We found out through this, we can't just put these on any Tesla spot. We found out there's a lot of land leases and like Hy-Vee or other businesses own these spots. So we had to bring some more value to the site owners, site host itself too. So 8% increase in sales, 9% increase in category share, and 13% increase in new buyers from case studies of advertising on these EV charging stations. But we start with phase 1. We go with the simple, hardware is hard, and that's what we do. We sell these things just to get in. Phase 2, we get into more of the vending, which we found through merchandisers and actually pitching in Peoria and stuff too. We didn't even know what a merchandiser was. The guys that stock chips and all that, we didn't know there's a title for it, but they could actually stock these things as well for us and really handle the logistics and supply chain of deploying 20,000 of these across the country. So this is much more viable now, right? And this only increases kind of like our sales because you get your air fresheners, some advertising, the box will be modified for some advertising in there. But then phase 3 is where it gets a little bit bigger too, because we get into the digital advertising portion, but also kind of getting the rub from everybody around us. So when you're ordering food, when you're getting groceries and kind of making use of this 30 minutes of downtime, or getting like a sandwich delivered straight to your window, that's where we found out like we can do this without any hardware. We can get a rub off of all that, just like every other service we use with Uber Eats and Grubhub and all that stuff. And then ultimately where we wanted to go with this is just being kind of a licensee of the entire system and software into like the actual physical charging stations themselves, much like Tesla, ChargePoint, and all that. But phase 4, let's pay attention to this one too, because phase 3 and phase 4, as of last December, is where we really started to focus on. And this is where it's going. So we have these huge gas stations. They're getting EV chargers in here and there. We're competing with them. But we have about 20,000 nationwide. And these EV charging stations are only growing immensely. And I know we had a big slowdown last year with the government kind of like pulling funding and all that stuff too. But 20,000 level 3 charging stations times $50,000 a box at a level, at a phase 2, $1 billion per year, $3 billion globally, because England, Europe have a lot more EVs. And just a little bit about Temi and I, that's my CEO, co-founder, and we've recently brought on a CTO because with the onset of AI, this has really pivoted in here. We go to our ask in these pitches as well too. So we've pitched at Arrowhead Stadium up in Kansas City, which has been really fun. Pitched here in Peoria, down in Springfield, and all this too. These pitches are fantastic. I love. It's kind of like got me comfortable to sit up here, talk about our idea. We have to punch all this in like 5 minutes for a lot of these. So this is great. We have a great back and forth, raising $500,000. But that's not where we've stopped at. We've actually completely pivoted into hardware is hard. All right, we wouldn't know this if we didn't have Peoria and all these resources through Distillery Labs, the ability to talk to other mentors, other people that have gone through this, and even meeting Raj, our CTO as well too, who really opened it up. So instead of, we are jumping, phase 1 and phase 2 with the hardware is going to be kind of the upgrade. We're going to switch out these two. So we're going to jump to phase 3 and go into phase 4. And what we've created is not a progressive web app. So it's not an app that you download. It's just a progressive web app that you get on there. You can bookmark it, saves it straight to your wallpaper or desktop on your phone, on the wallpaper in there. No login necessary, but we have a complete EV charging concierge service created. So that way you log in, and it's actually got this 28-minute timer on here, and you can do quite a few things that's a little bit more fun. You can make music, you can add art, and what we're going to do is make this a communal thing as well too, where all of these people that are charging at one spot can actually kind of make this art, this music, whatever too, if they're bored, and then AI can just jam it into one and be the song of the week or the tune of the week. But it still offers sponsorship for each site location as well too, which makes it digital. Because what our big problem was, how do we deploy 20,000 of these tomorrow? And that's always been a CO, like what do the logistics look like for this, right? $500,000 will get us there, but I mean, we've got a 2-year payoff, which is still great ROI, but it's just, we got to prove the model and go faster, better, and stronger. And so the concierge service even has a vibe mode as well too. So when you switch over to the vibe mode, it'll actually just create within your time frame of that 28 minutes or 15, wherever you start that, it'll create an entire package of entertainment that you can do to walk to interact with, to go look at. And so when you try it out at your house, and the beta version is going to be launched, so stay tuned on LinkedIn here soon, because the beta version is going to be launched. Raj is ready to pull out or to launch it. Our CTO just wants everything like perfect, and I'm like, just put it out there, put it out there. He's like, you understand how much token cost this is on the back end? I'm like, no, I don't, but like, let's put it out there. So we're gonna be launching that. It's been working really great. And think of this, because now instead of the EV charging stations, yes, this is where the service while you charge is built, but now we've created a progressive web app that actually can work anywhere, like in the big cities, in an apartment as well too. Somebody can just go into this and find food that's narrowed down to within a 15-minute time window and get everything within this 28 minutes, so to speak, because now we live in we don't like waiting, all right? This generation doesn't like waiting. We need it now. We need it, like, we're not thinking about it. We're not planning. We need it now. And so that's what we've refined. So think of it as like Google when you're looking for food, and it filters all that junk out of like delivery window of 38 minutes, 45 minutes or whatever too, and it puts it down to 15 minutes. And so what the nice part with that is it forces people to buy from a restaurant or another retail service that they normally probably wouldn't, but to try it and, kind of like bring that in. But the big thing too, I was like, the monetization is like, we've made it so you can sponsor any spot in the world with us. So literally on Mount Everest, somebody could sponsor that, like the helicopter rides, could sponsor that little spot, and all this too. But so stay tuned for that. It's been something we've been working on since December of having a big pivot outside of the hardware. And so when this starts working, then the hardware comes back in and isn't so capital intensive. And that is quick SWYCH Box in a box. All right. I hope you guys all kept up with that, okay?
My brain is trying to keep up with how fast you talk, but very, very interesting, and so many great ideas. So I don't want to sit for 30 minutes somewhere. I want it at my house overnight while I'm sleeping. What happens when that happens? Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about too. These EV charging stations are not for just, everyone's got a charger. When they get an EV charger or a Tesla or any of these cars, they're always getting some kind of charging station in their garage. But it's a slower level 1, level 2 charger. So you're getting like 20 miles an hour to 11 miles an hour at home. But we've run into the same thing, because I have one as well. We've run into the same thing. We get back from a trip, and then I gotta travel to Bloomington or something the following day, and I've only been able to charge up to like 30% from 5%, right? And so I still need to go to these fast chargers. I still need to spend 15 minutes to get, a good bulk of 60% back in my battery and all this. And so these level 3 chargers, that data is readily available for us to deploy, but they're just in these deserts that nobody has any amenities to. So they're not for everyday use, and that's kind of the joy of it. It's like, we don't want the SWYCH app to be used every day until it reaches kind of like these apartments, and we start including a lot more amenities outside of that. So no, it's only for the charging stations themselves right now, and dialed in for that, because what we find is people are just sitting in their car, and it's like, during that time, let's get out, walk around, let's see what's going on around us. And it'll start to take in other events in the area as well too. So if there's like a free concert or someone playing the piano down the road, it'll say, hey, walk down here, grab a scone, check out the observatory at Donovan Park and all this too, all within that 15-minute walk, and it's calculating all this.
Questions? One, what was terrible about the first box manufacturer? And two, what do you do when Wally's and Buc-ee's starts providing charging stations? And go Hawks.
Yeah. I'm with them. I get you. So Lock and Go oversold us. All right, they said their system was pretty kind of open source, and what their model was you'd put your jacket in, like at an amusement park, your jacket and purse in there, and in that box you'd rent it for like 6 hours or whatever, and it'd just stay in there. Well, we were like, we're more on the quick turn, so we needed to unlock and do kind of like the reverse of that. And they're like, no problem. And so we worked for months, and we went kind of like, what do you call it? Just kind of brute forced its way through on our back end. So it looks really ugly on the back end, but just so it satisfied we thought their code would be a little bit more open source. And that's what the big thing is. And then they switched, and we were really excited because they switched to like Colony as their platform as well too. And again, sold us on that too, because they're like, this fits what you're doing. And then, September, October last year, we switched to the Colony within Lock and Go still. And that software looked better, but still didn't do anything. It was actually performed worse than before. So we were like, look, we're gonna build our own software. We went down the road of building our own software, talking to Raj, our CTO, and then we're like, this we can't launch tomorrow. And that was the major decision factor. So it's like, we gotta pivot. And that's where somebody in the Distillery Labs, like day one, was like, hey, don't be afraid to pivot. If you go from EV charging to horseback riding, don't be afraid to pivot. You can make those connections.
Buc-ee's and Wally's.
Buc-ee's and Wally's, we hope they start putting more of those in, because then you're sitting out there, it's kind of a walk, but also too, it's more advertising. They can sponsor that spot. If somebody just pulls up their SWYCH Box app, if they pull it up, they can actually get a few more amenities sold to them. Like they can get the car wash going. How many times has somebody been to the Buc-ee's car wash when they're going? It's like, no, I don't have time for this. But if you see it sponsored right on the main page when you pop in here, you can kind of like get some more sales, and that's where that product diversity, 8% increase in sales and all that, and product diversity is the biggest thing, because kind of like working with Hy-Vee very closely on this. They've really pushed. They have these like clearance items. The product they've got to move, right?
What I was thinking was Buc-ee's and Wally's doesn't need you because they've got their big building there, and anything that you could get out of a SWYCH box, you could get out of a Wally's or Buc-ee's. Am I wrong there?
No, correct. And that's why too, like if this becomes something bigger, we get to partner in, because we want to drive sales into Buc-ee's and all that. And that puts the pressure on us to be able to sell to them. Like, hey, can we just put a sign up? Because we don't even need a physical product anymore with the new concierge service, right? And that's where we're going with it. So once we become synonymous with just EV charging, pop this open, even working with Stevens Auto Glass too, I mean, why is that not a service? Why in 30 minutes, can you not get your chip replaced or chip repaired in your window because it's on here, right? And you just type it in, is it available? Not today. So the host is where kind of like our point is the site host, and to bring value to them because they're ultimately the gatekeepers to all the charging stations.
So I work for a property management company, and we've been looking at putting EV chargers at the apartment buildings, but there's a big insurance cost. Would you bear that insurance cost, or would the site owner for the charging station itself?
Well, Don, we're not a charging station.
Okay.
We're only
Okay.
like a self-service kiosk that's
If there
separate.
is a charging station?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yep. And that's one thing too we didn't want to have to deal with as well.
I think what he's saying, Dawn, is you need to get the charging stations and then they'll put a switch box there.
And we definitely help you out with getting the charging stations because it's actually required this year in 2026. If you're building anything new, multifamily or residential, you have to put in a 220 line in the garage, or for multifamily, you have to have so many chargers per unit or something. For new build.
Yeah, you just answered a question I had for you. First of all, I want to say I know Timmy and Nicolina. They're great people.
I know.
But I'm a pastor of a church, and I wondered if you could see a day when charging stations are in churches' parking lots all over the country. And would your service work well in that kind of environment? Because people wouldn't be sitting in their car for 30 minutes. They would want to charge while they're inside. Yeah, they'd be listening to me preach, right?
That's right. We have a direct link of them right to the podcast in there, or the YouTube stream. Absolutely, because the biggest problem with EV charging stations, it's a lot cheaper and easier than a fuel tank to go into the ground and no EPA regulations whatsoever, but it's still expensive for electricians to like bore the conduit and all this. I mean, we even had, it was $350,000 to put in 4 level 3 chargers on one spot, right? And that's what Open Grid's raising money for on that side too. But they're doing a little better as well too to make it more mobile. But yeah, charging stations, even the trickle charge level 1, level 2, it still requires a little bit. But yes, I see them being in future builds where it's just an amenity, whether you choose to hook up to it or not, because you'll still pay for the electricity, which I just got an email like the other day that Ameren's raising their prices 20% this year. So talk to somebody in solar panels. But yes, they like the Buc-ee's, Wally's, all of them are putting them in. Casey's is putting a lot of them in as well too. And because there's only about 20,000 level 3 chargers as of last year, but that's like exponentially rising, like almost like an asymptote, where it's almost becoming part of the deal or the development deal too. It's like, where's the EV charger going? 2 years ago that wasn't a talking point, but now it is.
Interesting fact about new construction and that requirement for apartment buildings and like that. So, to me, you're talking about an awful lot of money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you share with us some of the numbers, how much money you've raised, or
Yeah.
how it all works? Thank you.
Yeah. So self-funded right away. So Timmy and I just put up money. With those boxes, we even made those boxes solar paneled because first hurdle for this, all right, to deploy nationwide. First hurdle is like, we're not going to have a 120 line to hook this box in like these Lock It Go's used to. So we need to make these self-serving. So we put 2 200 watt panels on top. It does it, but then over time, there's panel degradation, and then the winter time did prove our theory of like there wasn't enough sun for this thing. And so that's another reason why we switched to the all digital model, because what we really saw our money coming from was the level 3 or the phase 3 and phase 4 portion of our business too, which is the frictionless stuff where we're not dealing with any hardware, no merchandise and all this too. But we'll still offer phase 1 and phase 2 because it's a nice amenity. I don't know if you guys saw like all those cars that like froze over at the Tesla charging station in Chicago 2 winters ago. Because we really enjoy working at Distillery Labs. Distillery Labs is a huge catalyst for our launch and acceleration and all this too. But like we can actually put in new merchandise. Somebody came up with, in Alaska, with blankets for cars that go over EV charging to keep the batteries from freezing over and all that too. We could actually start deploying those because in Chicago they have these huge huge charging stations, like 30 chargers, just in like a little block and stuff too. So we could actually offer a lot of extra stuff out of there too that helps and rotate that new ideas, less cost to deploy, try out in a different market and all this too. We can really integrate with new items and all that. So we put up money in the front run and then just put time in. We've raised probably just under $30,000 for all of this, and that's just through grants, pitch competitions that we've won, and I think those are the two main ones, apart from like the cash we put in as well too. And that's why we just we have the 2 units, or we actually have 3 units. We have like a dummy one we keep that's in the garage where we need to try something. We break the guinea pig, the canary, so to speak, of that one. And that's where the raise was, but I was like, it's an easy raise because the ROI on that was like 29% of that, even the conservative $5 per hour, $19,000 a year. ROI is fantastic on it. It's like 19.24 ROI. So I was like, great, we'll make our money back, no problem, 1 year. If we had to deploy 10 or 12, because that was the deal we have with Hy-Vee, and they're ready to go. It just we wanted it to be a little better and more dialed in, and where we were going with no infrastructure to plug this in. And when we deployed out in Kansas City at Liberty, Missouri, we had a great turnout, and people really responded well to it and all this stuff. But it only lasted 2 days on the solar panel because the Sunday was a cloudy day, still in the summertime as well too. And so we were monitoring it very closely online, and like, oh man, it went out of, it ran out of juice. And we had it even turn off at like 8 p.m. when the sun was down and stuff too. But then firing up the next day, Monday was not it. So I was like, hey, this is a great trial. We're gonna come pick it up Monday afternoon and all that too. And I was like, there's just not a system ready for us to deploy these without plugging in. And Tesla installs, ChargePoint installs all these chargers, and so the infrastructure, they just don't put an extra 110 plug there for us. So we had to go to digital models, allows us to just go tomorrow.
My question is about EVs. Do you know the growth the last couple of years or what is projected in the next few years?
Yeah, that's where Temi really shines on that too, because he's been studying that tremendously, because that's where we're just curtailing on that. It's an exponential growth, and it's only been growing, kind of like at 20% per year, but then it's anticipated with these new, with the new taxis and the new Rivians and Volkswagen Scouts and all this too, that it should be like 30% year over year, but it's a huge growth, and that's why it's going into all the new builds and developments on the laws, and just why they have to put chargers in it everywhere as well too. So yes, I don't know that. CEO Temi does.
I have a real quick question for you, real quick.
Shoot.
When you going on Shark Tank?
Oh, once we make money, Mr. Wonderful, you're like, how much money have you made? And we need to say at least $1, Thank you guys.